There it goes. Always takes a second. Voice memo for later, whatever the fuck episode. I've got Ben Woodfield.
Yo, I'm Ben Woodfield.
And you're gonna fuck everyone's girlfriends or something?
Not everyone's.
Just a few.
Just a few. Like, it's a privilege, really, to have me fuck your girlfriend.
Right, okay. You gotta get on that level.
Right. If you can't see, for those of you who don't know me, I am 6'4". I am built like a Wolverine, Hugh Jackman, and I have a golden penis.
I've seen the golden penis. Every once in a while when you're struggling on stage and you need new material on the fly, I have seen you
I just open my fly.
down your fly. Right.
Yeah.
And it comes out. It's pretty big.
Well, it's to give golden showers with.
Yeah.
Right. It cost me a pretty penny because I am a multi-billionaire.
Okay. You're the one who brought up money. So now we're going to go into it. Well, first of all, actually, you know what? Here, we'll come pin in it or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, we'll put a pin in
We'll come back to it. First of all, I want to talk about how I first came to know you exist. Interesting. I went to my first open mic. This is back in April this last year.
It was April because it was like a month before I won Sexiest Man of the Year award.
Okay, sure. We'll go with that. And I saw you on stage. And I just remember my reaction because I think the first time I saw you, I mean, you have up and down sets, right? Like you get a good set, and then you get like a really bad set, and you get a good set. It's just kind of it's kind of, I mean, which I have too, of course. Actually, I have probably more bad sets than good sets, but I think the first one, if I remember correctly, that you had was like a bomb. I'm pretty sure.
Probably was it here?
Yeah, it was here.
Then
Which
it
was
was
a safe bet that it would
it was
be a bomb
definitely
if it was
a
here. Yeah, Joystick is a bomb-worthy place. But yeah, it was wild because that was my first reaction was like, this guy
sucks.
Well, no, not even. It's just this guy is eating a dick, and he doesn't even seem to care.
That's because I don't.
That actually impressed me because I'm new comic, and I'm like, how do you just take that and you're just like, that's fine. It's like, yeah, I don't know if you're just saying a line like, let's just say like, well, because nobody wants to smell a dog's fart. Like, let's just say that's the line you're saying.
Right.
You would say that, and the room was just silent. And then you're like, what? I'm sorry. Do you guys like smelling a dog's fart?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you're just going to sit there with that, huh? Like, damn. I mean, I guess you don't have a choice, but like.
I mean, you always get off stage, but.
True.
Well,
That's the nuclear option, yeah.
Right. Well, you know, like, what prepared me for like dead rooms, bombing on stage, like all that other negative energy being directed at me.
What's that?
Bullying. If you want to develop someone that's like really tough, like bully your kids. Like I'm not talking about like at school. Like I was bullied by like my grandpa and like my parents.
Okay.
My aunt she always called me Benjamina.
Yeah.
Not even realizing it was like a mean thing to do to like demasculate like your 11-year-old nephew.
Just casually, like this is just how it is.
It's just how it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, was it like, when you say bullying, like, were you one of those kids that went through like a phase in school where it was like, that kid is this piece of shit and we're just gonna like, just fucking throw rocks at him verbally or whatever, otherwise, just any chance we get? Was that kind of like, oh yeah, we gotta do the be real?
Yeah, I gotta be real for a second, guys.
Oh yeah. We're real right now. Shit.
Perfect. Yeah, it went out at just the right time.
Oh man, I remember you did that on stage the one time. Maybe I don't know. It might have been multiple times at this point. Who knows?
I did it a few times.
Yeah.
But then I'd post late. This is more like being real. Like I used to like just think it was kind of bullshit, but now I'm like in the culture.
Okay, you've sipped on the Be Real dick, and the Kool-Aid has swished around in your mouth, and you're like, actually, I kind of like the taste of this. Like, it's not bad.
Yeah. It's not bad. I don't have any friends on Be Real, like except for a few. It's mostly my cousin has posted one so far. That's who she is. That's Nat.
Okay. Yeah.
She was on my family holiday special.
Right.
Apparently my favorite cousin Brady Detterman, he just posted. He's reading the Tom Segura book.
Yeah,
I'd like to be left alone, please.
Yeah.
And we actually saw Tom Segura back in August.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You remember that show? I remember that show. I don't. my memory of your memory, based on what you said, was that you kind of remember that show.
I was at that show,
and
Tom Segura was at that show.
Sure.
And Brian Simpson was really at that show. Like I
can confirm this.
I really vibed with the energy he was putting out. And I was actually talking this side tangent to this tangent that the like feature spot, like on like a big show like that, like when you're like opening for a national headliner,
right?
That's where like you really cut your teeth, because that's like if you can get to that point, like you're just like Netflix is about to open the door for you.
Oh, yeah,
like
well, because if you can open for headliner, I know this sounds weird, but like if you can open for headliner, it's like, I mean, you could headline then. I mean, if you can make it work, right? Like you can, if you prove to the people there that you deserve to be there, then that's just one little notch away from headlining at that point, kind of. You know? It's not much different. So
I mean, it was like 15 minutes of solid material, no fumbles. He didn't stutter at all.
Yeah,
like that was a great set by Brian Simpson.
Oh yeah, I had heard of him before that. I hadn't seen too much of his stuff, so I kind of went in it not knowing a ton what to expect, because I've only kind of like seen him here and there, and blew me away. And what was really crazy is I was expecting an opener feature and then like this, the traditional format. And so when he came out and just killed, and then Tom came out, I was like, this is awesome. I like that. Like I could get used to that just 2-man show kind of thing. Like that's pretty cool.
Or 2 women. I'm not a misogynist.
Or 2 women.
Or 2 persons.
2 persons.
You know, gender's a spectrum.
Sure. 2 Santa Clauses.
Have I pissed off your listener base yet?
Dude, if anything, my listener base would be like already tired of you. I feel like if I had one, they'd probably be like, okay, whatever, man. Like,
yeah, sure.
I'm just enough of a piece of shit to draw a bunch of pieces of shit to me. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I hear you on that one. I was like asking people where they were January 6th. But yeah, back to the Tom Segura show.
Right.
So I was dehydrated.
I
was sleepy.
Yeah.
I was hungry. And I kind of zoned out a little bit. But it wasn't to where... Actually zoned out. So I zoned in.
Okay.
The audience disappeared.
Okay.
To me. Like, I shut them out.
That's
I
normal.
closed my eyes.
Sure.
Like, and it was Tom Segura's voice in my head. Yeah. And I felt like we were just, like, in a living room. And he was just talking.
Was he still far away, but in just a big living? No, he's right next to you?
I was in, like, the headspace to where I was right next to Tom Segura.
Okay.
But I was keeping cool with it because, I'm already famous in my own head.
Right.
So, like, I look at myself as someone who could just, like, hang out with Tom Segura without being, like, starstruck.
Yeah. That's always, oh, man, that idea of, like, fanboying out or trying not to fanboy out or whatever, or playing it cool, just whatever the type of person, man, I have always been that person who I try so hard to play it cool that I end up being not like aloof or a jerk. Like, I'm nice and whatever, but it's sometimes I feel like the person is like, oh, this is it? It's like, that's all you want? Like, you're not, because they're used to people being crazy, and then I'll come up. I remember I met one of my favorite guitarists at the time, and he was, he did a show, and it was he used to be in a bigger band, like pretty, like decently well known, and then like went off on his own at one point, and I go see him after he's on his own in Des Moines. And because I'm used to the idea of him being in this more well-known band, the idea of just being able to approach him was kind of wild to me. But then I remember this show his set was over, and then I saw it, and he was back by his merch table, and there's just nobody there. I'm like, oh, well, shit. I'll just go up and say hey. And so I did. But I remember at one point I'm trying to get, we're getting a selfie, and I try to go for the selfie, and then like it was kind of almost a shitty photo. And he's like, you get it? And I was like, oh, yeah. I think he's like, do you want to take another? I'm like, okay, sure. I would have just walked away with the shitty photo because I'm like, I don't want to impose and make him take a second photo. Like, that's obnoxious. But I feel like that's actually not that obnoxious compared to what kind of people are out there. It's like, that's sort of normal and not that weird. But
right.
I just try to go so far the other way that I'm like, I'm not going to be that guy.
Like, if I ran into, like, Nikki Glazer at, like, the IHOP, and I'm like, hey, will you sign something for me? Oh, yeah, do you have, like, a pen? No, actually, because you run across the street to CVS, pick me up a pen, a Sharpie, some paper, like some Cheez-Its, stuff like that.
Yeah, sure.
I don't want to impose or anything, but, like, you got it like that, and I
True.
Even though I'm a multi-billionaire, which is I still like free Cheez-Its.
Okay, so the pin. So we can come back to the pin. The pins pulled out. So, I understand, and I'm curious about. I genuinely am curious about this. Do you love, indifferent, or hate talking about money? Given that your situation of you have like some sort of fund, I think, right?
Yeah.
You've inherited something.
Yeah. Essentially, like, I'm third generation money.
Okay.
So where my grandparents, they were born like pretty like destitute.
Yeah, yeah.
My dad, my dad's father, grandpa,
Right.
he like grew up in South Dakota on a farm with like 7 siblings.
Yeah.
Like they were like pretty like standard. He got a scholarship to go to the South Dakota School of Mines. He became an engineer, started building buildings. Like he started like doing well for himself. And it wasn't really like the job he had that paid for, like, that is the reason why he has much money as he did. What he did is he invested during the Clinton years.
Okay.
So, right at the beginning of the internet bubble where everything was like here and then like it went to here.
Yeah, everything was like wildly good. Yeah.
So he like did that. Okay. That's kind of what my like mom's parents did. Like they worked hard their entire lives.
Right.
They like built up a nest egg. My grandpa actually got sprayed with some farm chemicals, so they had a lawsuit to where like with some of the settlement money, like they invested that. So they also did
being
well.
Really smart with all the money they're
being
getting,
fiscally responsible.
Yeah.
And then they like, because they had means, like I grew up with some more advantages. Like neither one of my parents were ever like doctors or lawyers or like someone like who you would expect to be able to afford to like have their kid run around like I do.
Yeah.
But they're also very fiscally responsible. They're like good with a budget. They're very smart people.
Yeah.
And here I am doing podcast. I'm a stand-up comedian. I do a little arms dealing on the side.
Yeah. We all do a little bit. Yeah.
I always wanted to like have kind of like a comedy movie where like someone's an arms dealer and like he brings someone like around back to like check him out, and he opens up the trunk and it's just full of like prosthetic arms. It's like, yeah, what you want? I got lefts, I got rights, I got whites, I got blacks. Like, a Mexican one right here. Yeah, it's a nice olive skin tone.
Sometimes I really love just really aggressively stupid like dad type jokes like that. Those are like my favorite sometimes. Depends on the mood I'm in, but yeah, I really like those jokes.
I think we all do. Like, they're just people who won't admit that they like it.
Yeah, I think so.
Because after a while, like, you really can burn yourself out on like stand-up comedy, like where everything's at right now. There's maybe like 5 unique people in the game. Everyone else is just talking about, oh, my dick, oh, my kids, oh, my job, oh, I got an ass crack that's full of chocolate pudding. Like,
right, yeah.
After a while, you kind of get burnt out on it.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel that. There's a lot of, you can see immediately when someone like has heavy influence by a particular person. And it's like, and sometimes that's okay, but other times it's like, okay, you're decent at that thing, but that has been done before at least a couple times. Like, maybe try to branch out. Like, and I mean, of course, I'm not one to talk. Like, again, I'm, pretty damn new to all this, and I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing and my voice and everything. But I at least, like, I feel like sometimes I try to, like, I remember there's been a couple times, and I probably should do it more, where I was like, you know what? I've just been talking about my dick a lot and all this stuff, and it's like, let me like tell a story. I may not have like the most interesting life, but there have been some interesting like weird things that have happened. Like maybe I should try to just like spin a tale and see what funny I can like draw out of that. And it is pretty uncomfortable, and it takes up a lot of time. That's the one thing that keeps me from going back over and over to the stories is like when you're up there for 5 minutes, it's like story is going to take up like the whole time minutes. Almost. Yeah. Sometimes it's like you're not going to have much time to like try anything else, which is kind of a bummer. But I do like to kind of dabble and the
storytelling. Again, like everyone's going to give me a bunch of flack when I like start giving comedy advice because they always do that. Yeah, right. Even when like what I have to say is true.
Yeah.
But the problem with like the story type jokes is because everyone thinks a stand-up comedian, all they do is go up there and like tell a story.
Right.
And they're half right. It's a smoke and mirrors trick.
Yeah.
If you really break it down. But so many of the times, like, we'll tell a story and no one knows the right amount of detail to give to a story. Like, that's what everyone's, like, always forgetting. Because think about it. If I just said, oh, yeah, like, I went to this place and it's actually, like, a 5-star Michelin restaurant, like, people would be more interested in, like, oh, what you have, like, what was the wine pairing? Like, what did they suggest? Like, oh, like, was it worth the money?
Yeah.
Like, but, like, if I went on, like, over-exaggerating, like, they had cloth napkins that were embroidered, and there's actually, like, 5 different knives, and actually, like, I had to do, like, this, that, and the other. Like, no, people don't care. So, like, you have to know how much fat to leave in a story.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of like, because I do come from, I have got an English degree when I thought that I wanted to just be a writer. And it is interesting how much crossover there can be sometimes between like writing fiction and doing stand-up, because there's this economy of words thing that's like, it's just like you're saying, you have to figure out like how much juicy detail do you kind of want to throw in there versus like some places maybe you want it more sparse because you want to try to just get to the point. You don't want to like flower it up too much. It's like people get bored. And yeah, it's interesting though, those crossovers to me.
Is a very healthy medium. I think really stand-up comedy is more poetry than like prose writing.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a rhythm to it. I wish I could do like impressions and voices. I think they're kind of hacky.
Yeah.
Like most people can't do them well.
I wish that's what I wish that I could do at least a few of them extremely well. Because there's moments where it's like, this would actually serve this, and this would be like, I could take this to another level if I could do a voice. But a lot of times, even if it's not an impression, even if it's just some kind of act out, I sometimes shy away from those because I'm like, I don't know how good I'm doing this. And like, unless I'm really doing this well, it's just going to be weird. But if I do it extremely well, it could be awesome. But like, it's like, and maybe I just need to do a bunch more act outs and try to like go toward, I do want to try to go towards the things that make me uncomfortable, because obviously like that's what makes people good at any craft really, is like making themselves be uncomfortable and like do the things they can't do. And but you get down to it and you get on stage and you look down at your notes and you're like, oh fuck me. You look out at the crowd. It was sometimes what happens to me, I don't know if you relate to this, but like you'll have a plan, right? And you're like, this is what I'm going to work on tonight, whatever. And it has some new stuff in there that is really going to be rough trying to work it out. You get up there and suddenly the room fills up a lot more and there's a bunch of people and it looks like a healthy, good room. And you're like, damn, I just want to try to kill right now. Like, I want to go for it, right? And so you kind of abandon your plan. You're like, okay, I was going to work on this, but we'll do that next time. Like, I want to try to like, I want to see what I can do with this room, because it's rare that I get a good room like this. It's like, let's not waste it, kind of,
Right. And if the room's hot, the room's hot. If the room's not, the room's not.
Yeah.
Like, I hosted at the Comedy Bar the weekend after Thanksgiving. So the Friday show, like, I absolutely killed.
Yeah.
Like, it was just a good show. Like, everyone did well.
Right.
And then I went back the next night and I did so bad I thought about killing myself. Like, it was not good. It was the same material. It was like the same, like, the second night was even busier, but nothing I could do could make like the audience pop. And like eventually, like, they kind of warmed up a little bit. Like, they figured out they were at a comedy show and they could actually laugh. They weren't on TikTok to where if they think something's funny, they just go
right.
You exhale a little bit more, like, huh, that was funny.
Yeah. There is probably an interesting thing with some crowds nowadays where, like, and granted, it's not that you can't compete with it, because there's a very narrow range usually of tones, I could say, of like comedy that you find like on like all these different shorts online and stuff. But there is something to be said where like people maybe these days, maybe they don't really know, but they think they know what they like. And then like if there's something outside of that, they're like, I don't know about that. Like, what is this? And they almost like kind of put their guards up. They don't want to like give it a chance immediately. And then it becomes a little harder because like it's kind of now you have to kind of break their walls down to get them to like even be open to something, and then also deliver the goods. It's like on top of that, and that can be like a lot to do sometimes.
Oh yeah. Well, I also had a professor who taught like a stand-up comedy class here at Iowa.
Yeah.
And she said that one of the things, and this is like a golden rule, that if you can't make like someone's girlfriend or wife laugh, then they won't laugh because they don't want to get in trouble for it.
Right.
Like it's so weird. Like basically, there will be times that like a show or a mic or just wherever where I will laugh at something probably a little harder than I have to. I just want the room to like pick up, like, you guys can laugh at this. Right.
It's just like letting them know, like, hey, I'm having fun over here. You should have fun too. Like, let's loosen up and have a good time. Yeah.
And really, I think a lot of that comes back to like my grandpa, John. He does not care about anybody else's like thoughts or judging him or whatever they're going to do to him.
Right.
He just is there, like he's going to do what he wants to do. He doesn't really worry about like what everyone else is thinking. And that's kind of like another way I try to live, because there are just going to be so many people in this world who they just want to follow a crowd. They want to like kind of conform. They're not going to like take a risk or go anywhere with it.
Right.
So if you look like an idiot, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. Like, sometimes it can be good to just kind of just be a moron for a second. So sometimes it's actually really fun. The pressure of being like excelling at things you're doing is sometimes like makes things not fun. So sometimes it is just fun to just be like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing right now, and I'm okay with that. Like, I'm just here to have fun. Like, I don't care.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, we're just a couple of dudes in Iowa. Like, for this to become like anything that we should even remotely care about.
Yeah.
Like, even at like an ego level or professional level or whatever you want to call it, like, we're not there. Like, you know who can have an ego? A dude with a Netflix special, or a chick with a Netflix special.
Yeah.
Or like someone else with a Netflix special. Like, if you have a Netflix special, like, congratulations, you can have an ego. And usually at those point, those people really don't as much.
Yeah. It's sometimes it can be, and I haven't encountered it too much. Like, the scene here is actually like surprising. When I first started, I was surprised immediately by like how like supportive most people are here. Like, it's really cool. But yeah, you do every so often. You'll get somebody that's kind of like has a bit of an ego flashing and kind of like they're talking some shit, and then it's like, dude, you're like, I want to tell them, and I feel like sometimes it's like, well, I can't say anything because I'm much newer than them and whatever, and so like obviously it's gonna sound stupid coming from me, but it's like, dude, we're in like some little league shit.
Yeah.
And I'm new on the team, but you're more experienced, and you're like one of the better players on the team, but you're still in the little league shit, bro.
Right.
Like, you're not in the big leagues. Like, don't pretend like you're there, because you're not. Like,
congratulations, you headlined a bar in Marshalltown, Iowa. Like, no, seriously, like, if that's what you want to do, like, all the more power to you.
Right.
But, like, don't be a dick about it.
Yeah.
Like, kind of my whole philosophy when it comes to, like, anything you're doing performance-wise, unless, like, that's your career, like, you are making your living off of this, you probably don't have room for that much of an ego.
No. Yeah, because I do feel with today, like with the internet and like how you can, like, everyone can jump on podcasts and they can put out shorts on TikTok and YouTube and they can blah, 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 this and that. There's all sorts of ways to DIY just about everything that if you're not popping in any kind of a way and you don't really have much of a fan base at all, I mean, that's kind of you, dude. Like, that's at that point, like, it's like there's plenty of tools that if you're undeniably good, people are gonna notice.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, it's like if you're not really popping like that, yeah, an ego's a bad look. Like,
it really
a big ego. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's really a bad look for anybody at like
true.
any level, but especially you run into it, pisses you off more when it's like someone at your level trying to do it to you.
Yeah. That's what really, that gets aggravating. I've heard a couple times, I've heard of like one or two people in this scene be like make some type of comment, and I don't know how much they meant it seriously, but they kind of made a comment that was kind of like, yeah, man, I should just like, I should leave here soon because I've pretty much gotten past everyone here. Like, I'm kind of above all that. And I'm just like, I don't think you are. Like, no. You're decent. You're doing okay in this scene. Again, in this scene, but like, that's not anything. This scene, like, no offense, but it's just not. This is just some local scene in Iowa.
It's not indicative of Chicago or Los Angeles or New York.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think that if you have kind of learned the basics and you are in a position to where you can leave,
right,
and like that's what you really want to do,
then it might be a
go
good
for
idea.
it.
Yeah, sure.
But don't go out with like the idea that I'm above.
I've outgrown it.
I've outgrown this. You haven't outgrown like anywhere.
Yeah, no.
Like very few people actually have.
Yeah.
So basically, keep an open mind to it. Learn how to network. Be a good hang.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna name drop Donnie Townsend here because that's like my favorite, or one of my favorite Iowa comedians.
I like that guy. I don't know him at all, but I like that guy.
Oh, he's a super cool dude.
Yeah.
And he said, dude, just be a good hang.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, don't worry about trying to pump up your chest or,
right.
Be like the cock of the walk. Just like, hang out, be cool.
Well, and wouldn't you know, isn't it interesting, right? The guy that's saying, just, hang out and be cool and don't make a big deal, whatever. Wouldn't you know? Well, of course, that's the guy that, a while back I saw him open for Mark Norman. So it's like...
Oh, yeah. Well, he hosted for Mark Norman, but...
What's that?
He hosted for Mark Norman.
Sorry, yeah.
And
fair enough.
And, like, no disrespect to Johnny, that's still, like, a huge accomplishment. That's really cool.
Yeah, no, of course.
But, again, I'll name drop someone else. Leslie Mitchell, it's her pet peeve to say... Or for people to say, like, I opened for someone when you were just a guest spot or a host.
Right. Yeah.
And because, like, I mean, she's not wrong. Like, be honest and, like, authentic with your experiences.
Yeah.
Like, my grandma always thinks that you have to, like, lie and embellish to, like, make something interesting.
Right.
And that's just, like, not true.
No. Yeah, well, it's people, I think sometimes people, they aren't confident enough in, and they're not real enough about how things are to be able to just relax and enjoy the moment when, like, they do something that is worth celebrating, right? It's like, it might not be this big thing in the grand scheme of things, but for you at your level right now, this is a big deal, right? It's like, if I've at 2 different cubing competitions, I've gotten 3rd place in one of my events, and in that, just in the cubing community in general, I am not shit. I know what the rankings are. They're on the website. You can go look, right? All the global rankings are everywhere. You can see what type of shit that you are, and I'm not shit. But still, winning 3rd at those small competitions was a moment where I was like, I'm proud of this. I'm happy of, like, where I've come. It didn't have to diminish that just because I know that in the grand scheme of things, I'm not shit. You can still just be happy about, like, where you're at and not have to, like, lie about it or embellish or whatever. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And, like, how much more pussy are you going to get for getting, like, 1st place at that championship or, like, 3rd place at that championship? Like, it's still that, like, one, like, cubing groupie.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Well, because I know in, like, the comedy scene, like, some of the older guys will call them, like, people who, like, hang around comedy clubs to, like, have sex with comedians, chuckle fuckers.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the cubing, like, equivalent would be, like, the, I don't know. You got any suggestions?
Dude, I got nothing, to be honest. I was trying to. It's weird. It's like my brain. It went for cubing, and then like fucking and sexy, and it tried to put them together. I'm like, I don't think you can.
No,
it just doesn't work.
Those 2 things are like the cube goochers.
Yeah.
That's not even good. Like, I don't know, because I had like to talk about an actual sport. To be disrespectful.
No, please. Yeah.
I was in class with one of the players on the college's football team.
Okay.
And like my first question to him was like, so are there like women who like will slide into like every football player's DMs?
Right. Yeah.
And he said, oh yeah. Like we will make fun of them for like trying to hit on all of us. Like it's great.
God, that must be, it's interesting. That must be a thing. And in a lot of places where it's like, if you're part of a group that is some sort of esteemed group in that area or whatever, there's gonna for sure be someone who's like, I'm gonna play the numbers like volume game. I'm just gonna this DM, this DM, this DM, this DM, just like see what I can do.
Well, funny you should mention that. My roommate freshman year, and I really hope I'm not like putting him on blast.
I hope you are. For the record,
we went to high school together, where he hit on practically every like woman in our. Or I'm sorry, at that point they were girls in our grade.
Yeah.
Like they were 14. That's not. Is that woman? Like is that wrong? Like
I mean, it will. If you're 12, right? To you, that's a woman. But like to most other people, certainly to me, I'll go ahead and be on the record. I know this is bold of me to say,
Mm-hmm.
but on the record as a 33-year-old man, I definitely would say that's a girl. I know that's controversial, that's crazy, but I would definitely go with girl instead of woman.
Right. Well, basically, what I've heard is that like you shouldn't refer to like 20-year-old women as girls because like.
Oh, sure, because it's like disrespectful.
Disrespectful.
Yeah.
It's like patronizing, like infantilizing.
Right.
So I've tried really hard to like break myself of the habit of not saying like girl under almost any circumstance because there's not. I'll be completely honest. There's not a lot of like young girls in my life, and that's probably going to get like clipped into like oblivion.
Right. Oh, damn it! That was the wrong one. I'll come back to it.
Were you going to give me the want?
I was trying. Nope. That was what I was trying.
Yeah, man, celibacy. It's great. But I just don't have to use the word girl very often. But
yeah,
so, like back to the original tangent. He hit on like every young woman in our class and was shot down by all of them.
Yeah.
Like, it almost became like a meme at that point.
Yeah.
And he's doing fine now. He's got a lady in his life, I think. I don't know.
Right.
I'm really bad at keeping tabs on people.
Oh, I'm the worst at it. So bad. I have a friend who and this guy I really care about this guy. He's one of my best friends, Doug Sayers. He's one of those guys that not only is he a good friend, but he kind of like introduced me to the idea that like you don't have to follow traditional paths because he's a professional juggler. And so that's where I kind of learned how to juggle and became friends with him. And like he kind of was like a mentor in some ways to me in that aspect where I kind of saw these other sides of life where I'm like, oh, like these people working 9 to 5s and this guy's over here like legitimately he'll, not even just for his shows, but even just going out to the farmer's market and busking, making enough money to pay his rent for the month and like just easily, right, just being able to do that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh shit, you don't have to be this corporate slave like fucker. You can actually go out and do stuff. So I really genuinely like this guy and one of my good friends, and he's moved a few times. He was local, like in Cedar Rapids, and so we spent a lot of time together when we first became friends or whatever, and then he eventually moved to Denver, and now he's in Vegas and, go figure, doing like something there. Mm-hmm. And he will call me every several months or so. He'll call me, and we'll have this great phone conversation, and he'll ask how I've been and all this stuff, right? And then it's like, all right, we'll talk to you soon. And we get off the phone, and I never talk to him soon. And then he calls me back. I'm like the world's shittiest friend, where it's like he's the one always calling me to check in on me and be like, hey, man, how's it going? And then I'm like, I'm going to call him, and then I never do.
Yeah. Well, because like phone calls are so weird because I'm a big call guy. Like I can't respond to text messages in appropriate like time just because it takes so much out of me to like respond and like reply and just like try and formulate something to say.
Right.
And I can talk on the phone with someone for like half an hour, like 2 hours, and not even notice it.
Yeah.
So, but like back to the phone call thing, like you don't want to inconvenience someone like, oh, maybe they're like in the shower or they're like doing this or doing that.
Right.
Because for whatever reason, whenever I'm in the shower, that's when I always get booked to do a show.
when you're in the shower, that's when someone
in the shower
contacts you.
That's when someone contacts me like, hey, you free the 14th? I need you to do a roast battle. I'm like, cool. There is soap all over my body right now. My hands are all bruni.
Yeah.
So I will respond to you in appropriate times then. So like I'm frantically like trying to walk, like dry my hands where I can respond so like they don't go on to the next person who's like, oh my God, Ben didn't respond in 0.5 seconds. I'm going to give it to fucking Connor over there.
Oh God, yeah. They're like sending you a message. You're like, literally, my finger is almost in my asshole, and I'm cleaning it right now, and I can't respond, but I want to respond, so there might get a little tiny bit of shit and soap on my phone, but we're gonna do it,
I actually have like an exceptionally clean asshole.
Yeah.
Well, it's because I have a bidet.
Oh, okay. So you can maybe help me with this. I have for a long time now. And of course, it's no secret that the podcast world is full of people talking about bidets.
Yep, that's pretty big.
I've wanted to do it for so long. The one thing that's holding me back is I'm so paranoid that I'm going to be sitting on the toilet, I'll do the bidet thing, right? And that there will be splashback of fecal matter on the thing. And then when I go to do it again, it's just basically going to blast me with someone else's fecal matter who last used it or something, right? Is that a dumb concern, or is that what?
Yes.
Okay.
That is a dumb concern.
Okay.
So I'm actually a bidet expert. I would say.
Sure.
I've had one I had bidets before they were cool.
Okay.
And it's not even like the ones inside the toilet.
Yeah.
Like it's a standalone thing. Like it's kind of like a saddle that you kind of have to like sit down on and then like turn the levers and like it shoots and like it feels good.
Good times, yeah.
It feels really damn good. But basically it cleans everything off, like, and then if you're a courteous bidet user, you will scrub it with like the toilet brush when you're done. It's like not even like something you break out like the cleaning chemicals for and like go really hardcore, but like you'll like make sure like everything that could possibly be there is out there.
Yeah. Okay.
And
makes sense.
Yeah. That's what I do.
Okay.
To the podcast world. That's a good visual for you, me riding the bidet like a stallion.
Right. I imagined actually that while you were doing that, the golden dick like flopped out, but by mistake, like you weren't intending it, and it was like, oh, whoops, and it kind of was just flailing around,
Right.
Yeah.
It happens. But I have to clean that thing. Like it's there's actually like a case, like it kind of pops off, and like you have to like scrub inside of it. Use a little bit of vinegar, not apple cider vinegar, that will get sticky.
Yeah.
But just like regular like white vinegar will clean everything.
Nice. Okay.
Vinegar and baking soda.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So
you are, for those that may not know of the 0 people that are listening to this right now, you're kind of a local meme. Is that fair to say at this point?
That's definitely fair to say. I think meme may actually be the incorrect term.
Okay.
To quote Karen Sanchez, I'm Johnson County's favorite punching bag.
That checks out.
However, that is incorrect because I also represent Scott County, Dubuque County, Lynn County.
Right.
Really, Eastern Iowa's favorite punching bag.
Yeah. You will take aggressive beatings sometimes, to the point where I've had moments where I'm like, oh, dude, another sick Ben burn. This is hilarious. And I'll be laughing. And then after like the 3rd or 4th one of the night, I'm like, damn, is Ben okay?
Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Whenever someone starts making fun of me on stage, I just like I'm standing back there. I got a smile on my face. I'm like, you have to go into work tomorrow.
True.
Like, you have to like rush home because you have to get in bed for like a job tomorrow. I can be up till 4 o'clock in the morning playing Pokemon tonight. Like, there is not going to be any fallout from that.
Right.
So like, yeah, go ahead.
You're like, I win anyway, so it's fine.
It's fine. Yeah, like I'm not worried about what you have to say. Like, to quote Zach Vaughn, who last Tuesday made a joke about me and then said, oh, come on, I'm sorry, that was low-hanging fruit and Ben hates fruit.
Right.
Which, it was hysterical. Like, it's a great joke. I do love tangerines. That's a fun fact about me.
There you go. Yeah.
If he would have said, like, vegetables, he would definitely have been spot on the money.
Right.
Not a big vegetable guy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be. I had Brussels sprouts the other day.
Yeah.
They were roasted. We put some maple syrup over them. Not a lot of maple syrup, but like enough to like flavor it. Like you're supposed to put some type of like jam or jelly or like something to put them in. I thought it tasted like burning Cappy.
Yeah.
Like I was tasting the chlorophyll for a while afterwards, but it was okay because afterwards I went out to dinner. I had some chori pollo. It's just like chicken and sausage with some beans and rice, and all was right with the world.
There you go.
Now, Zach, I know this is your podcast, but I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So when you go, do you eat like tacos and like burritos and stuff like that?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Now, are you like the aggressive white person who orders flour tortillas, or are you cool and get corn tortillas? If
we're doing tacos, I have definitely learned over time, and for years now, I go every time for sure corn tortilla. That's the only way, in my opinion, at this point to go for tacos. Now we're going burrito. Of course, you got to get the giant ass flour tortilla, like that, do it Pancheros style or whatever. That's cool. That's awesome. But tacos, don't fucking do flour.
Tacos, you gotta do corn.
Yeah, for sure.
Remember when we had that like holiday party?
I do remember that.
It was a Christmas party, but we'll call it the holiday party to be accepting. And Karen said she was going to make tamales, and we ended up with pizza. You know how upset I was?
It was a very upsetting moment, yeah.
And like, no, like shade to be thrown at her because she did make some pretty good like sugar cookies for that.
Yeah, I enjoyed those.
Man, when you're promised tamales, fresh homemade, you wind up with Domino's,
it kills really big downgrade.
It kills a part of you.
Yeah. Yeah, it is one of those. Sometimes it's fine to go into something knowing what you're getting, and it's like low end, and it's like, yeah, no, that's okay with me right now. I can jam with that. Yeah, but yeah, you don't want to go in and be like, someone's offering like, dude, you're going to get the greatest blowjob of your life. It's amazing, right? And then they come in, they're like, actually, I don't feel like a blowjob right now, and I forgot the lotion. We're just going to do a dry hand job. I was like, come on, man. But if you had just come in and been like, do you want a dry hand job? Then it might be like, yeah, it
doesn't sound as bad. I was about to say, like, you rent like a Mustang convertible, and like someone just shows up with like a donkey. Like that's how you're going to get around like the big city. That's just inconvenient.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Like I guess bakers can't be choosers, but
right.
It just it boggles my mind of how many people just like struggle to do the things they say they're going to do. And I probably shouldn't be like throwing shade because like I don't have anything else like weighing on my mind.
Sure.
But usually like I do try, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. I don't want to throw shade here, but look, I'm not going to hide behind it, okay? And she probably was legitimately sick. I had scheduled to record with Karen a couple weeks ago, and she was sick, and so she last minute kind of canceled. And yeah, cool and everything. But it also, it's like, it's not just the canceling for being sick is a legitimate reason, but like I can't help sometimes like it'll build up where it's like person after person after person like, oh, I can't do that, or oh yeah, sure, why not? Oh, actually, and like those things add up over time, and you're like, man, and you just feel disappointed. It was such a beautiful relief to schedule time with you. You followed up with me when you saw me at the club, and then I'm coming into town, and then you're already there, and you're like, when you get here, here's where my car is. It's like you did what you said you're going to do, and it's like there's no. Sometimes I feel like I get really like autistic about scheduling, and I don't say that
derogatorily
or like a slang. I actually genuinely think I might actually be on the spectrum. Neither here nor there. I've taken a bunch of tests, and they all show that I score pretty high. Not like high score, you're an awesome normal guy, but like you might have a little bit of that going on.
Right.
But I'm one of those people where, yeah, it's like if I have a plan and I know what I'm going to do for the day, and then that gets derailed, I lose my shit. I'm like, oh, no. This is what how are we going to, and then I try to like, I once drove to a movie theater because we were going to go see a movie, and then there was a huge blizzard. And I was like, I don't want to not go to the movie because I was going to go to the movie. And in my mind, that was how my night was going to go. So I was going to go to this movie. And basically, everyone else is like, no, we're not going. I just drove by myself. And safety-wise, one of the worst driving decisions I've ever made. I was terrified coming home. But it was all just because I couldn't let go of that plan of like, no, this is what we're going to do, and I'm going to do it. God damn it.
No, I totally get that. Like, we live in an area where it comes like January through like June even.
Yeah.
Like you just the weather will be like shitty.
Yeah.
And like that, like I've only ever had to cancel plans because of weather like a few times. But normally I'm pretty good about just kind of rolling with it anymore.
Yeah, just making it work.
Making it work, not getting so stressed out.
Right.
Because I still get like a little like fired up when I have to be somewhere and the people I'm with are like making me late.
Yeah.
Even if there's like no consequences to being late, like I shouldn't have a problem with it.
Right. Well, it's like, because it's you have like an expectation of like, well, this is like around the time I want to get there. And then because you're with this group who's like doesn't have that concern somehow, they're just like, oh yeah, it's fine. You're like, no, hold on. You guys are ruining this for me. I was supposed to be here at 15 minutes ago, and you guys are just like being just lazy. Like, what are we doing? Come on, yeah.
Right. And I don't see. I'm at a really weird point in life because I actually just moved back in with my parents.
Okay.
And you can make fun of me for that if you want to. I really don't care. But I was on my own I was like living like kind of more independently.
Okay, yeah.
For probably 5-ish years.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you've been like on your own for a while now, and then you like, so has that been like disappointing, or are you cool with it? You like it? Like, what does that like?
I'm definitely fine with it. Like, it's like I don't have to pay rent, so like I'm good.
Yeah.
Like I'm not looking a gift horse in the mouth. But I've just noticed like things about me where I had like grown, I had like evolved, I've changed, and then I go home and it's like right back to where I was when I was 16.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. Damn it.
Like I like normally like when I was on my own, I could show up when I wanted to. I was not like fretted or feared about anything.
Right.
And now like I have to wait for my mom to go somewhere. We've been going to chiropractor appointments 3 times a week actually because my spine's all messed up.
Yeah.
And we bring my grandparents. Like we're all getting adjusted, and when they don't show up on time, and I'm like waiting, like, hey guys, like I'm like the dog standing like by the door, like, hey, we gotta go, we gotta go, and I don't know what happened. Like I just like I was the same way as a kid. Like
and
it was probably because in 5th grade I signed up to do like safety patrol because I always wanted authority.
Yeah,
and I would my mom like would always like drop me off like a little late, and the like coordinator would yell at me about it, and mom was like, Ben, you're like 8.
Yeah.
You can't control when you get there.
Right. Yeah.
So why do you care what this woman has to say? Like it's a volunteer position.
Right.
Like they're not even giving you anything.
Yeah.
Why do you care about this so much?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Like you're right, Mom. Why do I care about this so much?
Dude, I can relate so much to that feeling though of like, yeah, when you go back to your parents and you're hanging out like that. For me, that'll happen like if it's like, kind of like the holidays recently, where I'll go and I know, I live just down the interstate, like 15 minutes away, right? I'm in Cedar Rapids there, like in Shoeyville. So like, as long as there's no traffic, like, yeah, it's like 15 minutes away. And whenever I get back there for like a long weekend, and then especially if my brother shows up and I'm suddenly like, yesterday I was a 33-year-old man. Today I'm 15. Like, it's just, I don't care. It's like, I don't have to be an adult because I'm at my mom and dad's house. Like,
like they'll take care of everything. Like I could totally set the like shed on fire. What's going to happen?
Right.
I'll have to build a new shed. No, that's dad's problem. I'm going to go back to my like adult life.
Only now it's like I'm back there and now I'm 15 again, but also I'm drunk. The added bonus that wasn't there when I was 15.
No.
Yeah.
Man.
Damn.
So do you have a healthy relationship with alcohol?
I think I do right now. There have been times where when I'm being honest with myself, I would look at my gut and I would look at how often I was spending how much money, and I would go, okay, this is, and the reason I know that my relationship with alcohol is healthy or that I'm not an alcoholic is because whenever I felt those moments where I'm like, I think I'm being a little unhealthy about this, I'm drinking way too much. When I have that conversation with myself and I'm like, okay, I'm going to cut back a little, I'm able to do it, right? Yeah. And so I'm like, that's the moment where like you would find out, right? If you're an alcoholic, you're like, oh, I'm breaking my own promise to myself to like only have 2 drinks tonight or what. Yeah. So I think it's pretty healthy.
I also say like I have a pretty like healthy relationship with alcohol. I've never really used it to escape anything.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've always kind of like been a saving grace is I have to pretty much drive everywhere. I've never like lived someplace where I could like walk to the bar.
Yeah, so you always feel like you have some sort of like, I got to stay under control so
right,
that
like
I can drive. Yeah.
I need to be able to blow under 0.08 so I can get home. Right. So
sorry to interrupt. Have you ever had a moment where, and you can feel free to just plead the fifth or whatever, but have you ever had a moment where you drove somewhere and you got there and it's only after you got there that you're like, I probably shouldn't have driven. Like that was pushing it a bit. That might have been a bad idea, but I'm okay. But like, let's not do that again. Have you ever had those moments?
Yeah, definitely. It's never really been like I couldn't keep the car between the lines.
Right, sure.
But there have been times where like it was hard to drive because of the state I was in.
Right, it's like hard to like focus on what you're doing. Yeah.
Like I just remember one time the like stoplights were vividly dancing at me.
Yeah.
And I was listening to like music, and whenever the bass would drop, like I would drop.
Yeah.
And it was an intense experience. Like I've tried to replicate that. Not driving.
Not driving. Just that feeling or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And any like law enforcement officers like listening to this. First off, thank you for listening to voice memos for later.
Yeah.
And second off, this is performance art.
Yes.
My real name is actually Nathaniel J. Trueberry.
Fuck. You just let it slip, man. You're done.
Yeah.
They're going to find you.
They're going to find me. You actually gotten 2 fake names on the podcast.
That's true. Because I actually, to be honest, I might have seen it written down on the internet somewhere one time, maybe, or maybe someone said it once. I actually, right now, if you were like, "What's my real last name?" I'd be like, I don't know. For all I care, it's Woodfield, but I know that that's not true.
You know what? Honestly, Woodfield is a stage name, but it is a more true name for me.
I can feel that. That makes sense. For some reason, there is something about Woodfield and the combination of that with Ben. It's like, yeah, that's Ben Woodfield.
That's who
tracks.
That's who I am.
Yeah.
It's nothing against my family, nothing against parents, anything. My legal last name, it's hard to pronounce.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really mean anything super cool.
Okay, sure.
So it's not like I was sacrificing something that had a noble lineage to it.
Right.
It's not like it's not like when the royal family changed their name from Mountbatten to Windsor.
Yeah.
Because there was anti-German sentiment.
Right.
And I'm not a historian.
Yeah.
I just like YouTube shorts.
Yeah. Like YouTube
shorts. Yeah, I used the stage name a couple times, doing Zoom open mics.
Okay, sure.
And it's just kind of stuck. Because I thought about changing my stage name again before. But then someone's like, so you basically are saying you didn't build up enough name recognition with Woodfield to do anything. I'm like, actually, you've got a good point there.
Yeah.
Now I am just Ben Woodfield, and it's kind of hard because there are times I want to go through and be like, no, I'm done with Woodfield. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've built enough of it to make it mean something.
That's interesting to me, the idea of a stage name, because I didn't really think too much of it when I started. I think I was at a point in my life where I felt I'd gotten to the age where I'm I was grateful for how good of a home life I've had and how great my family is and whatever. And so I think part of me there wasn't even a thought of if I would try to use a different name, because I was I kind of gotten to a point where beforehand I would have probably chosen something else. And I'm not saying this is why you did what you did, but for me it's I was I'm proud of my family. I'm proud of where I come from in a weird way. So it's yeah, of course I should use my last name, because then if I make anything of myself, that's really cool that I can kind of put my family's name out there in some kind of a way, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely know what you mean. Most of it just came from no one ever pronounced it correctly, so I grew to hate having to hear it.
Yeah.
So, and actually, because I'll look up famous celebrities, because I'm just out of curiosity how old they are, if they're married.
Right.
Usually see if they're married, and you know what Olivia Wilde's birth name was? Olivia Cockburn.
What?
Yeah, look it up.
The fuck?
She was born Olivia Cockburn. Now, if you were about to be an actress in something and you wanted people to say Miss Cockburn, Miss Cockburn, Miss Cockburn,
yeah, oh my god,
could you imagine if you wanted to be a middle school teacher with a name like Cockburn?
And then she's thinking about that, and she goes, "Dude, that's fucking wild."
There you go. See,
she
it
adds
writes
an
itself.
E to it, though, doesn't she?
She does.
Yeah,
Olivia Wilde.
It'd be kind of weird if it was just Wild,
right?
Just the word.
If your name's Olivia Wilde, that's a porn star. But Olivia Wilde, that's a classy actress.
Right, exactly. That E does all that heavy lifting.
Even though I probably respect porn stars more than Olivia Wilde.
True.
Well, the same amount. You know what?
Yeah.
I respect people who I don't know. I support sex workers in a trying not to sound creepy way, you know?
Right. There's that fine line, because there's so many people now that they jump on the I support sex workers, I'm a male feminist, whatever. They have all these weird things. It's are you trying to? Is this a game you're playing? You trying to sneak in the back? I don't know what you're doing there. It's weird.
Do you talk about Black Lives Matter because you want to show support, or because you want to be relevant?
Right.
Are you actually doing anything other than a hashtag warrior?
I have a great Well, no. Let me backtrack. I was about to say, I have a great story, and then I remembered that I have not even 1 year into my career, and I'm like, I might not be making this a great story. So let's just say I have a story about that sort of notion of like, what are you actually doing? And I learned this lesson when I was in high school. I had this teacher. He was kind of an interesting guy. So he's like, I took programming with him. This is the class that I was in at the time. But this guy, he used to work. He was a teacher at like a school in Illinois. And actually I think it was the principal of that school was Martin Luther King's bodyguard, or one of his bodyguards, I guess. And apparently there's this amazingly crazy picture like at that school of him like standing in the way of a rock that's being thrown, and like MLK is behind him, and he's like legit like putting his body in the way, like protecting it, which is wild. Anyway, not really much to do with the story. Anyway, he's just an interesting guy, has this interesting background, worked at the school, and he actually had a thing happen to him where he was like interrogated by the FBI because he was on a watch list because he bought a bunch of like batteries of some sort from Radio Shack, which was legitimately for like a science project for his students.
Right.
But because of that, and he was also a vegan and like some other thing, it put him in the crosshairs of like, you're on this list now. And so they came and talked to him and whatever. But yeah, just a really weird, really intelligent, interesting guy. One of those guys where you're like, you're teaching why? Like, you're too smart to be just teaching kids. What are you doing?
Like, what went wrong?
Right.
Kind of like the Walter White scenario.
Yeah, but he would make you think about stuff. He had this way of like talking about stuff in a way that like I feel like other teachers probably didn't feel safe talking about it in a certain way, but he felt confident because he's smart and he knows what he's doing, and he's like, yeah, like these kids should learn about this or whatever. But one of the things I learned from him is it was actually related to MLK. Actually, it was Martin Luther King Day, and my school that year, for whatever reason, like we're like, fuck you, like we're having school anyway. And I kind of like, I had this reaction to it. I was like, dude, that's bullshit. Like, that's disrespectful to this amazing guy in our history who had this noble vision and was this like incredibly just ethical, like great guy. And I was just mad that we were like going to school. So and it's so embarrassing now. I put on like poster board thing, one of the classic, I wore a poster, right? And it was like saying whatever like message I had about why we're having school, we're not celebrating this holiday and whatever, that's blah blah blah. And I got to his class and he read it and whatever, and then in front of the class, just no shame on his end, should have been plenty of shame on my end, he asked me like about the poster or whatever, and then he said this question that made me feel like such a shitty, fraudulent person. He was like, I don't want to like call you out or whatever. He's like, but what are you doing today? Like to celebrate? Like, what are you contributing? Like, what are you doing today? And I was just called out, and I was like, I didn't have an answer. I
want to stay at home and play video games. Like, I didn't really care about like any of this.
Yeah. It's the most called out to this day I've ever felt in my life, and that stuck with me. That was a really well-delivered lesson, because that I will never forget that. I'm like, I'm never going to be seen as this fraud guy again. Not because of I don't want to have that image because I want to be cool, but like it made me question myself. I was like, what my real motives are, and I'm like, I'm never going to like lie to myself like that again.
I think you can go ahead and say that's a great story.
Okay, all right.
Like cool. I'll thumbs that one up.
All right.
Because I mean that is true. Like especially with the rise of Twitter, and I don't really want to be like one of those pundits who are like bashing the like keyboard warriors or whatever else they want to call them. I think their heart's in the right place.
Sure.
But we as a society don't really know how to cope.
No. Yeah.
I think that we are so focused on like cleaning up the mess that we never look at how to actually like solve a problem.
Yeah.
It's like, if you smoke for 50 years and then, you have lung cancer.
Right.
Just what can we do to like avoid the initial like smoking part? Like, how can we live healthy?
Yeah.
That's probably a bad example, because like if you want to smoke. Like I don't really have a like solution for you.
Right.
Like I'm not here to like save anybody, because I don't have the skill set for that.
Right.
I've talked about this with my family. The only thing I'm really cut out for is entertainment.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not. I have tried to do teaching before. I am not good at it.
Mm-hmm.
I am not going. I don't have like the reflexes to be a doctor. If I was in like a courtroom, I would try to make everyone laugh instead of actually like defending my client. Like, I would not make a good lawyer.
Right.
So like I like a good time, Charlie.
Yeah.
That's what I want to be.
I definitely, if I'm being like objective, I have certain skills and knowledge and whatever that like there are other things I could make like a decent career out of completely. There's other things I could do, but at this point in my life, what I've realized is the only thing I want to do is entertainment, is like stand-up comedy. And it's like I don't know, like if you look back on your life, do you have, because when I came to like trying this out, I was like, this was kind of my last hope of like, I'm a jack of all trades. I have like a billion hobbies. And I had a realization where I'm like, none of these things are going to be something, because I started being honest with myself, and I realized that my work ethic did not reflect that I loved those things. I just really like them. Right. But that's not the same as like a passion and loving to do something. Mm-hmm. And so when I went up on stage the first time, this was like, it was kind of actually a nerve-wracking moment, not just because of the first time being on stage, but I was really concerned that I was going to get up there, grab the microphone, start my set, and realize that I don't love this either. And that was really terrifying. But I thankfully, I grabbed the microphone, I rested my other hand on the mic stand, I started into it, and even though I didn't know what I was doing and it was shitty, I was like, I want to keep doing this forever. I don't want to stop doing this. But I had a realization that like, oh yeah, of course, why did I not see this before? Because like, whether it's juggling or whether it's like when I was younger, I was always like, my favorite moment was when my sister would dare me to do something. And then my mom would like actually, because she would be laughing at first, right? My mom would be like, that's funny. And then my sister would be like, you should do that. And then my mom would like, she'd stop laughing at this point and she'd be like, Zach, don't do it.
No.
And then I'd look at my sister and I'd see her face like, yeah, do it. And that the most thrilling feeling was like, I'm going to go do this thing. And that feeling of doing the thing, my mom freaking out like, no, don't, Zach, what are you doing? And then my sister cackling. I'm like, this is amazing, this thrilling feeling. And I realized like that's always what I did when I was a kid, is I was always trying to just be stupid and funny, and just whatever I could do to get a rise and reaction out of everyone around me, that I was all about that. And so now in hindsight, I'm like, why did it take me so long to figure out that I wanted to do stand-up comedy? Like, that seems kind of obvious now. Do you have like something in your past like that where you're like, oh, it should be obvious that this was what I was meant to do? Or is it more like a different thing? Like what?
No, I've definitely wanted to do this like long before I actually started doing it.
Okay.
But this is a weird thing to like, there's no real entry to it.
Right.
Like, it's such a weird thing. I'm kind of fortunate because, like I said, at Iowa, they had stand-up comedy practicum that I signed up for before the world ended in 2020.
Right.
So I'm taking like this class on Zoom, and I'm meeting people from around the world, and I'm like learning the ins and outs of it. And I was okay, like as good as someone could get being on a computer.
Sure. Yeah.
But when the pandemic lifted here in Iowa, which was like, a year and a half before it lifted everywhere else.
Right.
Like I got on stage, I started doing it. I started like enjoying it. I got to network better. I moved like from the Iowa City scene. I expanded more into like Cedar Rapids and Dubuque, Davenport, and like I've really moved into like this spot where I'm not like, and I probably should be more proud of myself for what I have done.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I like doing comedy.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta start, and like now I know if I want to go someplace, like how to find open mics, how to talk to bookers. What I really need is like a good clip of me doing stand-up. Yeah. And that's been really hard for me to like want to film myself because I hate looking at myself.
Right, right.
And I feel like if I could have like a good like 5-minute set, I could get more opportunities if I wanted to start traveling a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was down in Florida last March with my family, and I've joined a few Facebook groups. Like I found some connections. I got to do a showcase in New Smyrna Beach.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was done there, like, oh, hey, head up to Daytona, which is just like right up there. They have like an 11 o'clock like late night mic at this one Irish pub. So I went up there and had like just an amazing time. Like I love doing it.
Yeah.
And then, that was kind of like it for comedy there. Like I honestly love the Florida comedy scene so much.
Yeah, it sounds from what I've heard, and it's from limited perspective. I've not talked to many like open micers down there or whatever, but it sounds wild down there. Is my impression. It sounds like it's a wild time on stage. Like the rooms are like in some ways like almost unpredictable, and they're just like it's crazy. And you get all sorts of people with very different reasons in being in that room, maybe.
Right. Well, you get like Florida people where like they make the news not because like they're crazier than the rest of the folks. They just there's different like circumstances, and actually, Florida has a like sunshine law where like they have to like disclose police reports to the news. That's why you get to hear all the crazy things.
Oh yeah.
Like I have a cousin who works with a police department, so she's never told me anything that would get her in trouble.
Right.
But there are some wild, like, local stories.
Yeah.
That we don't hear about because they don't get picked up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm sure. That must be crazy.
So, long story short, and even, like, I've done comedy in Chicago. Like, I've done, like, a few open mics. Like, basically, I was just there picking someone up from the airport. Mm-hmm. So I had, like, a night to, like, get ready.
Yeah.
Just, like, I had free time. Found a bunch of different places. And hung out with some really cool people. Did some networking. Mm-hmm. And now it's kind of to the point where I am so close to becoming like just a dude who lives in his van. It's so sad. Like because like, like had you told me like in 2016, like, hey Ben, at some point you're going to want to live in your car.
Right.
16-year-old Ben would have looked at you and been like, dude, go away, I'm masturbating.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he would call me an idiot.
Uh-huh.
Like, how could you possibly want that? Like, you should have been, like, a novelist at this point, you, like, lazy fuck.
Yeah.
And I'd look at him and be like, dude, books are boring.
Yeah.
Like, I used to want to write books so bad, and then, like, I had to read books for college because I also have an English degree.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I guess I do remember I found that out at one point. Yeah, we both have that thing.
And... dude, TV shows are way better than books.
Yeah, there's some crazy books out there and short stories and essays where you read it and it's kind of like I've had movie experiences like this where I have a weird tendency to like if I go I say I used to because it's hard to because there's not many places anymore. But I used to really love going into video stores and just browsing and like finding movies that like have been out for decades and I just never saw them. And I have a habit of somehow picking like the most bizarre ones off the shelf where me and my wife will sit down, we'll watch the movie, and we'll have like 5 movies to watch over the next few days, and we'll watch my movie at the end of like the first night, and we'll be getting ready to go to bed. The roll credits, and she'll just look at me like, what the fuck did we just watch? What did you make me watch? I'm like, I don't know, dude. It seemed interesting. Cool. But there's some books and essays and stuff like that out there. There's lots of pros out there that you can get into if you get a degree and you go through all that stuff that you're like, what the actual fuck is this?
What am I reading? Who did what to who? And yeah. I
had a moment in my degree where I was in it was like an American short story class. Mm-hmm. And now the silver lining of that class, as much as I hated that class, is I met like a really cool, I don't really hang out with him anymore. I haven't seen him in a long time. But so he kind of ended up being like one of my college friends, but like really like fun guy. And I had lots of fun conversations with him. So that was like worth it, I guess. But we had like some sort of journal that we kept kind of like with, and she would review it and blah, blah, and grade us. That was part of the class grade, was like this ongoing sort of like reading journal thing. And at one point I decided, fuck William Faulkner. Like, I fucking hate that guy.
Yep.
And so I lit into his ass so hard in one of my journal entries about like one of his I don't remember. I think it was like a short story that I'd read. Well, yeah, it was an American short story class, so it would have been a short
story.
Obviously. And I'd read a book of his like before that, and then I read that story, And at this point, I'm like, okay, this guy just likes to fight. The reason he's famous in the classics is because he experimented. That's really it, right? It's like he just wrote these wild, crazy long sentences that you're like, what is even happening? Is there even a story anymore or character development? Like, what is even going on? And I lit into him, and this bitch, dude, and I don't say that lightly. I'm not one of those guys that's just like, all women are bitches and whatever. This woman was a bitch, okay? She basically, in my paraphrasing, she basically told me that I don't have the critical, like, literary chops and experience to dare approach, like, the great William Faulkner, basically. I'm like, fuck you, dude. You're so full of fucking shit. Holy goddamn.
I know. Well, see, I can talk about this because I personally had a beef with Henry David Thoreau.
Okay.
And I was in, like, an American, like, short story class or some type of that.
Something like that.
Where we had to read some of his essays and stuff he wrote. And I just, like, tore into him, basically, like, dismantling his arguments, saying, like, you're not as cool as you think you are. Yeah. And my teacher was fine with it. Like, he apparently thought I had the literary chops to attack Henry David Thoreau.
Nice.
But I was the only person in the class to actually write on Henry David Thoreau. Everyone else chose other stories to talk about. And he said, maybe I'll have to take him out of the rotation next semester. I'm like, maybe, because, like, there is no one to peer edit shit for me. But it's cool class, cool dude. Like, I had a good time. I love taking English classes here as a student. Yeah.
Well, shout out one of my favorite classes that I did not expect to like was a Gothic fiction class. Shout out Daniel Bosco-John. I don't know what the fuck he's doing now. He was I don't remember what his actual position there was. He was probably like a
grad
TA
student or something.
Something like that. But that dude he approached class like a legit long time tenured professor. Like this guy way outshined like a lot of these other fucking guys that I had classes with. And what was interesting is he would approach the material in such a way that he would make you question everything you knew about writing. Where I remember he had this weird like tangent he went on about the word disclose, talking about how like the like kind of how much mystery and like weirdness there is around this word disclose, because it's like it's almost like freaky. It's like frightening. Like, and this is just my words, like describing kind of what he was talking about. Where like, because if you close something, you could open it, right? And that's like that's almost suggests that you could close it again. It could be open or close. But if you disclose something, it gives you this like feeling of like it's like you can't go back, right? Once it's disclosed, there is no closing
reclosed.
It again. Right. And of course, this is like, I'm not doing any of this justice, but he had this amazing just tangent he went on about the word disclose. And the end of that class, my brain was just melted. I was like, whoa, I've never examined language at this microscopic level, and it's kind of cool. Like,
no, I love like scenarios like that, because I took a class called Language and Formal Reasoning, where they basically taught you set theory. Where like, and basically you can kind of boil it down to these, if it's kind of like if then statements to make something true or not true. And the song You're So Vain, like it was playing when I was at work.
Okay.
So I started like formulating an if then like formula for it, like basically the claims they're making in the song. And I like applied it to what I was learning in school, and it wasn't true. Like it was the song. It was a flawed argument. It was a bad argument. And I remember rushing it to my TA. I'm like, I have cracked this. This song is bullshit. And then my TA gets on like the whiteboard, and I hand him a marker, and like we're like working this out. And like, you're right, Ben. Like this doesn't track. This doesn't make sense. And like it was so cathartic of a moment. You felt like you just unlocked something. Like, I didn't know I had this in me, but I can do this. I got like an A in that class. Like that was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Like I usually ended up liking classes I got A's in for some reason.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of like there were like somehow there didn't seem to be. I know that I had a few and actually Daniel Bosco-John was one of these guys that like I didn't necessarily perform great in the class, but there was no real reason for me not to. I was just kind of lazy. But like when it came to discussion, like it was, I remember actually the end of that class, there was a paper, and the opening line to his grading of my paper, like his comments on my paper, was, "This is one of the most heartbreaking papers I've ever had to grade." And he basically goes on to tear me an asshole, because he's basically saying, based on all of the discussions in class and your contributions, you get this shit and you're smart. And then, like, it seems like you just rushed this together, which was 100% true, by the way.
Easily.
I definitely did. Like, I remember sitting, like, my wife at the time was working for Java House, and that was when they still had a contract at the hospital. So she was working at, like, a hospital location Java House, and I would show up there, like, when she was, like, almost done with her shift and whatever, and I remember, like, sitting there, and I had, like, only a tiny bit of it written, and I just fire coming out of the laptop, and I just slapped that thing together. And like, I didn't, it's not like I failed it or whatever. It was like really bad. But yeah, his point was just like, this is kind of a steaming pile of shit, and I know you can do way better. And that was why it was so like heartbreaking. I had another professor like that before I actually got to Iowa. I went to Kirkwood at first. At that time, I wanted to be a film director, and I had zero ambition to go anywhere outside of my home state, and also wanted to get gen eds out of the way, so I just kind of fell on the excuse of that stuff. I was like, I'm just gonna go to Kirkwood, I'll get like communications, and I'll dabble in like video stuff, and that'll be like my introduction, and then I'll go somewhere else or whatever. Anyway, I had a film teacher there who, she pulled me aside one time. We were working on these projects in in the library, and she pulled me aside to because she was pulling everyone aside to go over it was like midterm or something, to kind of go over where they're at right now, right? So she pulls me aside, and we go over my grade, and then she goes, "You're she basically gave me this big speech telling me that if I just would try, I could do so well." And but then she guilted me about it. She's like, there are students in this class who are genuinely trying, giving it their all, and they're still not doing that well because this is hard stuff. This material is hard or whatever. And you are being disrespectful because you have all of the potential and the talent, but then you're just not applying yourself. So it's like a slap in the face to these people that you're doing as good or better than some of them, but you're not even trying. And that was another one of those lessons in my life where it stuck with me. I was like, oh my God. You can't, it's not enough to have a potential and a talent for something and just kind of I'm going to dabble in that. It was the first time I realized that is kind of, in a way, that is kind of disrespectful to the people that have to try harder. It's not right that you can just skate by. That's kind of bullshit. And it made me feel bad about oh wow, yeah, I really, if I should try hard first of all in everything, right? Unless I don't like it at all, right? But if it's something I care about in any way, I should probably apply myself, and especially if I have a talent for it, don't waste that shit. That's just terrible.
Well, I'm always a big proponent of don't necessarily do what you think you should be doing. Do what you're good at.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah.
If I was sitting here saying, I think I'm gonna go play for the Lakers.
Yeah.
Someone needs to be like, Ben, that's a really stupid idea. You're short.
Right.
I'm not even short. You're uncoordinated and fat, and you have never even played basketball
right.
for a rec league.
Yeah.
You're not there. You're never going to be there. And I'm perfectly fine with never being there.
Yeah. You've thought about this a lot, and you're like, it's okay. I've made peace that I'm not going to ever be a Laker.
I'm never going to be a Larry Bird, even though he didn't play for the Lakers. I know who I am. I have ambitions that I think I can meet at some point.
I like how you immediately, even though we were talking about the Lakers, you immediately went to Larry Bird, and I think it's because he was white and had a bad back, and you're like, that's kind of like me.
That's kind of well, actually, apparently they asked players who played in Larry Bird's era.
Yeah.
Who was the best trash talker? It was Larry Bird.
Oh yeah, I believe it. Yeah, for sure.
If you're growing up with the name Larry,
yeah,
and Bird, you're going to get bullied for that.
Oh yeah.
I don't think he started out tall. He probably had to grow into that.
Probably that happens to a lot of them, where they'll who was Anthony Davis? I think was one of these guys where he would when he was don't quote me on this might be wildly wrong, I might be mistaken for someone else, but I'm pretty sure Anthony Davis, when he was like and actually Kevin Durant was also like this. When they were like early on in school, like a freshman in high school or whatever, they're playing basketball, like they would play like point guard and stuff because they were like small. Like they were like undersized and whatever. And then at a certain point, they just rocketed into the air, and now they're giant. And then so like but then that helped them in their careers because they were able to take this like small stature, like ball handling skills, pair that with their size and everything, and then that's like kind of what makes them like special as far as like their raw talent and their physical gifts or whatever.
Like to actually like transition sports, that the Kansas City Chiefs, like Andy Reid built this like offensive line. Like, you know, there's obviously Patrick Mahomes is a quarterback, but Travis Kelce, they're like tight end, former quarterback. Their running back, Isaiah Pacheco, like also former quarterback. Yeah. So like you're bringing in these guys who like know how to read a field, but they're just like studs at like the position they're in now. Yeah. So like I think there's definitely a lot to like combine those like theories. Right. Like the multi-skill thing. Yeah, there's definitely there's a huge advantage to going into, and this can be taken in like this can be used in other aspects of life where like you can basically come from one industry that's some certain specialty you develop and whatever, go into another industry that almost has no relation to the first one, but you take like a certain perspective and skill from the first one, you take it to the second one, and now it's like magic. Like you put these two things together and it creates this like hybrid, like amazing idea of like how to do things. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's awesome. I agree. So what to kind of like sort of use this bridge to talk about something else. Sure. So did you hear what happened with the Bills safety? Yeah, are you talking about Damar Hamlin?
Yes, Damar Hamlin. Yeah, I the last I heard is that he's like awake and like holding hands with his family, whatever. Like seems to be like have brain activity, like normal brain activity.
Like
or whatever.
He's doing pretty good for someone who like who probably like legally died.
Oh yeah,
like I mean his heart stopped. Like they were like really getting him. Like they like shout out to the University of Cincinnati medical like team for bringing him back.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But you know what the first thing he asked when he woke up was?
What?
Did we win the game?
Did he really?
Oh yeah, that's like the first thing on his mind. But
Respect.
Just because like I was watching like the game like with my dad, like I was excited for it. Like there were like really like, competitive teams this year. Yeah, like it was for like the AFC like division. Like I was rooting for the Bengals. Yeah, because I'm a big Chiefs fan. So had like the Bills lost, like that would put the Kansas City in the top seed. Yeah. And like when he didn't get back up, and like there was like a hush that fell over the entire stadium. Right. Yeah. And you know, like they formed like a human like wall around him to like keep him away from the cameras while he was getting like work done to him. Right. And like they all embraced each other. Like it was a very like cathartic moment. Right. There was like the entire stadium fell silent. Yeah, which is pretty wild. Right.
Like think about it as it's a stadium, dude.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Because you know we've been to stadiums for like comedy shows that we're like watching, not like actually participating in. Even when like right before they get on stage, it's not a quiet place. No. Like you can definitely hear conversations going on.
Oh yeah, people in those types of venues think they're actually being quiet, but the collective is so many that quiet is actually really loud.
It is super loud.
Yeah.
And then like the game like got delayed, like they started to trickle out, and it was such like a cathartic moment of like everyone coming together. Right. And granted, like very unfortunate circumstances.
Right. But
it's always those kind of like moments after the unfortunate circumstance that I really enjoy. Yeah, because we live in a very like divided time where basically if you say that you're a big fan of red, that someone's over there's going to say I'm a big fan of blue, and you will not get along for any reason. Yeah. Like we've been like almost trained to like hate each other.
Yeah, and it didn't used to be like that. Actually,
no, it didn't
at all.
Like if you look back at like old Saturday Night Live sketches, like Al Gore, George Bush, who cares? It's the same thing.
Right.
Like it's all one entity.
Yeah.
And like you can't do that now.
No.
John Mulaney learned that one the hard way. So it's like these moments when like 80% to 95% of people can agree on something. They're beautiful. Yeah. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Like Russia invading Ukraine. Shitty situation. That was like the first time I sat down for like an Easter dinner where there was one topic that could be talked about at dinner with everyone being on the same side.
Yeah.
Like, it was so cool because, like, I was talking with my uncle. He's a former Marine. Like, he knows, like, war stuff. Like, and that's probably, like, butchering it.
That he knows war stuff.
He knows war stuff. He's pretty damn good at war.
Yeah.
He came back.
Well, there you go. Yeah, that's something.
But, I asked him about my mom asked him about, like, the Ukraine situation, like, the Russian forces, like, what are they capable of?
Right.
And he said, well, the Russians have always been like a cub bear holding their dick.
Okay.
They don't know whether they should piss with it or fuck with it. And this is just like a family dinner. Like, this is, like, wildly inappropriate for, like, the situation.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was just, like, he was talking about, like, they, like, in the American, like, tank units, like, there are 4 people to a tank.
Mm-hmm.
In Russia, it's 3.
Yeah.
And, like, with that 4th person, like, if the tank doesn't start working, now you have 4 people to defend the tank while it gets operational rather than 3 people to defend the tank.
Right. Okay.
And, like, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was just, like, it was cool to, like, all be on the same page, like...
Yeah.
Because there's... Like, if you talk about, like, abortion or, like, gay marriage or, like, police brutality, like, there's people who... You have to be on one side.
Yeah.
Like,
and if you're not, it's just, like, I won't even... Not only will I not talk to you... I will just pretend I don't even know you.
Right.
Like, you're just not existing to me now.
I won't acknowledge you.
Right.
And I think there just has to come to, like, an equilibrium at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so. I think things are starting to... I think, actually, from the perspective of, like, looking at comedy, I actually think the number of comedians right now that say some pretty, like, aggressive shit considering the PC kind of world around them. Mm-hmm. The number of comedians out there that are doing that and are selling more tickets than they ever have tells me that, like, yeah, I think some people are getting pretty fed up with, like, that sort of, like, tiptoeing environment, or the, like, we all have to be enemies and hate each other. Like, people are like, can we just have fun again? I think a lot of people are kind of feeling that way, which is cool to see.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Comedy is a hard thing. Like, you can't stand on a soapbox and do comedy. It's such a hard thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you try and take, like, a smug, like, privileged position to where, like, oh, I'm very knowledgeable about this topic. Like, how can I make this funny? Like, you have to be a genius to make that funny.
Yeah, like, almost legitimately, like, literal.
Like, right, like,
genius.
Like, you better have, really, like, smart. You better have, like, a PhD at the end of your name to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, knowledgeably to a bunch of people.
Because you have to find the, like, not just the winnable position, the unlosable position.
Right.
You have to. There's like a really cool logic to comedy that I found, not personally because I'm not shit and I can't do this, but what I admire in pros that I really like is they'll have this logical train where they just lay out, like, here's the first point, here's the second point, here's the third point. By the time they get to, like, the punchline, you have no choice but to agree because it's 100%, like, locked down. That logic is solid. So it's like, even if you badly want to disagree, you can't. No. And then, like, that's where you get everyone on your side and everyone laughs at it because there's that relief of, like, oh, he just won. I can't argue against it, so I guess I agree. Like, yeah. I definitely. You were talking about the moments, like, after kind of. Hey, Zach here. You may notice the audio sounds a little different. That's because I'm on my headset on my computer. I am editing this episode together, and I just wanted to drop in here to let you know that the weird break in audio is because the batteries actually died while we were recording, and then so we had to start recording a new file to continue the podcast afterwards. So that was fun. Yeah, enjoy the rest of the episode. We're back. Probably wrap this up here soon. But no, I was just gonna say, when you were talking about those, like, terrible moments where something happens and then, like, afterwards, that, like, brief moment of, like, oh, like, people are together and unified about something or whatever. I definitely felt that after the derecho hit in 2020 because, like, not just the everyone coming together thing, but, like, I felt strangely peaceful because I had damage to my home. It was like a new home. I lived there for 2 weeks, and then the storm hits. It's crazy. And I'm in the backyard, and I'm just like, my life, because I couldn't work because I didn't have internet access. I couldn't really like there's a period of time where like I couldn't even go back into the office because like I couldn't even contact people and to like arrange anything. And it's like, and they kind of just gave us a break, obviously, for a bit. They're like, well, you can chill for a second, right? Take care of your shit. And I was in the backyard just like sawing like bits of a tree off and like hauling the wood to a wood pile. And I felt really strangely peaceful because there was none of the modern just bullshit. Like I didn't even have a cell signal, right, to even contact people. So it's like, there was none of the modern bullshit to distract me. I was just like, this is my job right now. Like it felt like I was in a different time. It's like, this is my job, is to go outside every day and clear this stuff and bring it over there. And like, that's it. That's all there is to existence. And it kind of felt good for a bit just to have that break. Yeah.
No, I completely agree with you. Like I was living in like the bluegrass area at the time of the like derecho.
Yeah.
And actually I had to go pick my brother up from work while the derecho was happening.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So like
crazy.
It wasn't even that bad. Like the wind blew a little bit, but it wasn't anything like super bad. Plus I was in like a river valley.
Yeah.
Which that kind of helps. Like, I don't know. Grandpa always said like rivers or like the like high force winds don't bother like low lying areas like that.
Oh,
anyway,
sure.
Not the point.
Right.
But I did help a friend like clean up a tree in his yard. I grabbed the chainsaw. Like we just got to work and
yeah.
That's kind of the thing about Iowa. Like, when you see disaster hit here versus, like, somewhere else, we're just already like, okay, well, I guess this is happening. Let's go, like, get the sandbags out. Let's go, like, shovel someone's driveway. Like, we'll handle it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, well, what, a train got derailed? Everyone get in their Ford F-150s. We're going to pull it out. All of us together. Come on now.
Yeah.
Don't use Jim's chain. It's weak. He buys it from China.
Right.
Or something dumb like that. Like,
yeah.
But we were just like, we can deal with it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That stuff's kind of nice sometimes. So.
Yeah. So any parting words we should have?
Parting words. Well, okay, so here's a thing that I failed to do with Carson, but when I was with Marsh, I tried to start a thing that I'm going to try to keep doing, which is because this thing's called Voice Memo for Later, started off as Voice Memo, became a podcast. I like the idea of leaving, because podcasts are like this thing where, it's recorded, you can listen to it later, and it's like you get into all these interesting conversations. What would be, if you have any kind of a voice memo sort of thought of like, this is something that I would like to remember late, like future Ben should remember this lesson or this thought because it's a good thing to remember. Like, what would be your voice memo for later to revisit? Celebrate
the small accomplishments in life. Because when you look back at them, you'll be more proud of them than you ever like thought you would when you're actually doing them.
Yeah.
So that'd be what I'd say for, like, in the future.
I think that's perfect. Well, thanks for doing this. We'll do it again sometime, hopefully. And,
for sure. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Later.